Good morning, Muncie Church. It's great to be with you. My name is Allie Greer, and I am a member of the Mosaic Sunday School class at Muncie. For this morning, I wanted to begin our lesson with a famous line from Mr. Rogers. In past interviews, he's recollected on his mother's advice to him in times that are difficult, in times of catastrophe, that I find very helpful for our current moment. Mr. Rogers reflects that when he was a boy, his mother told him, "In difficult times, always look for the helpers." There will always be helpers. They may just be on the sidelines. But if you reflect a light on the helpers, that is where you will find hope. Now, for me, in times like our current situation, in the midst of a pandemic, it can seem sometimes overwhelming to consider how we can help. Our normal routines, our general ways of serving have all shifted, and the weight sometimes seems too much and we seem too small. How can we help in this moment? What can Christ do with our acts to perform miracles? Now, as I've been thinking through those questions and wrestling with that today, over the past weeks and today, one of the miracle stories stands out to me. And it's a miracle story found in all of the Gospels, the only one to be found in all of the Gospels. So it has many important messages for us. I'm going to read about the feeding of the 5,000 from the book of Mark. So it is in Mark chapter 6, verses 30 through 44. If you have a Bible, you can read along with me. The apostles gathered around Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. He said to them, "Come away to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest a while." For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. And they went away in the boat to a deserted place by themselves. Now many saw them going and recognized them, and they hurried there on foot from all the towns and arrived ahead of time. As he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. When it grew late, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is now very late. Send them away so that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy something for themselves to eat." But Christ answered them, "You give them something to eat." They said to him, "Are we to go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them to eat?" And Christ said, "How many loaves have you? Go and see." When they had found out, they said 5 and 2 fish. Then Christ ordered them to get all the people to sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and of 50. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, Christ looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to his disciples to set before the people. And he divided the fish among them all. All ate and were filled, and they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces and of the fish. Those who had eaten the loaves numbered 5,000. Now, this is a miraculous story, and there's so much packed into it. There may be different things that resonate with you as you reflect on this story. You've probably heard many times since your childhood. When I look at this, especially in our current situation, I must admit I resonate with the disciples. You see, they feel like they've done their service. They came, they spoke, Christ healed and had compassion on the crowds. And the disciples were trying to tell Jesus how the crowd was feeling. They had a sense of the room. People were starting to get hangry. It was important for them to go on their way, find their food, and be nourished for the day. And Christ, of course, surprises his disciples and reflects how clueless sometimes we are. Instead of sending the group away, Christ wanted his disciples to help continue to serve them. And of course, the task is daunting for the disciples here. How are they to feed over 5,000 people? And what money do they have to do that? Now that's a sentiment I can feel at this time. How am I to serve my community when the best thing I can do is stay home? Beyond that, are there ways that I can be creative and help others? And I think the amazing thing in this story, the miracle of feeding the 5,000, is Christ only needs a small act to be able to perform great miracles for others. It may take us some time to realize the power of a small gift of 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Yet that's all Christ needed from his disciples to move forward and to feed and bless a large crowd. It's amazing what can happen when we give just a little, with the right intentions and a little small sacrifice to ourselves. The beautiful thing I love about Muncie's church is the way we all seek to be helpers. We are a serving church, and there's always many opportunities to get involved. It's a little different now, and I've appreciated the ways that Muncie tries to help us find the blessing, even as our worlds come to a halt to our normal routines, and we find a new way of being together. When I think of this time and the blessing I have found, it brings me back to my Muncie family. One of the kindest acts I've received in the last month came from Edie Culberson. During this time of being at home, she decided to create face masks. Now, she's a neighbor to my mother-in-law, and without our knowledge, she asked if she could make us masks and just drop them off at my mother-in-law's. So for the past few weeks, whenever I've needed to go out to the store, I'm now prepared thanks to Edie Culberson. Not only am I protected, but I also get to look pretty fashionable as I go to the grocery store or to the few other places I have been. See, Edie took the small amount of time to think about others in her community. It would be hard for me to create a mask, but Edie was able to do it, and she thought about those who were somewhat outside of her circle. As a recipient of such a powerful act, that's truly been moving for my husband and I to get those, it compels me to not only want to be the recipient of a blessing, but also to try to serve as a helper, to be a blessing for others at this time. Now, to do that means we have to get creative, but I take comfort in the fact that Christ can appreciate and move within our small acts. See, sometimes it's dismissive to think of the power of a small note, of a phone call, of a little bit of cloth. But those acts go a long way, especially with the right intentions and hope and love that we pour into them. Now, another fun thing about this story that I think resonates today is the gift of bread. At this time, bread seems to be making a comeback in America, bread making specifically. I've read articles that after toilet paper disappeared, the next big items to go were yeast and bread flour. With all this extra time, we've been enjoying making some bread. Now, I learned how to make bread about a year ago. My husband and I went to his grandmother's home, and she taught us how to make our own sourdough bread. Now, a loaf of bread may be simple to some, but if you've learned how to make bread, you know that there is quite a bit of work that does go into it. So on that day, my grandmother, I consider my grandmother, took the whole day to teach us how to use our starter, pour our dough in, mix it up, knead bread dough. We patiently sat and waited until our bread was able to rise, and we had some great times together in those hours. And then after that, we were able to put our bread in the oven, wait another 40 minutes, and have the great smells of bread waft throughout their home. And then once the timer went off, we pulled out our warm bread, buttered it, and were able to delight in the goodness of homemade fresh bread. Now, since then, I've tried to continue my bread making. I currently have a starter here. Now it's not the starter that our grandmother taught us how to make. This is more like my 15th or 20th starter I've had to create over the last year or so. But the beauty of that starter to me is the fact that every time I make bread, it can come from the same yeast. So while the thought of blessing 5,000 people at once with a loaf of bread is completely daunting, there is a way to continue and help feed people from that one small jar of murky brown yeast, water, and sugar. Now, our grandmother, Allie Greer, is one who has fed many people at her table. So it's come as no surprise to me that her bread recipe makes 2 loaves with every batch. Now, it's just my husband and I, so although we are big bread lovers, we can't eat that much bread. So one of the practices we've had since we started making bread was when we make 2 loaves, we keep one, but we give one away. And over the year, we've given them to many family members, friends, our Sunday school teacher, our co-workers, and it's been amazing to see what one loaf of bread can mean for others. And at a time where we can't necessarily sit at a table with our friends, our families, we hope that as we start our bread making again, we can leave a loaf as a way to say, we love you and we're thinking of you. So for me, that's my challenge to go forward of how I can be a blessing, is maybe leave a loaf of bread somewhere. It's a small act, but over time, it can add up for the amount of people that we can touch. I hope in whatever way, in whatever hobby you are picking up at this time, we find some way to connect it to our community, to love on others, and to bless them. Because we certainly have been blessed by our church family, our families, and our friends. I hope you can go back and reflect some more on this miracle story that we know so well, and think through the blessings you've received and maybe the ways you can be a helper while staying safe and protecting our communities through social distancing. Before we leave, I want to leave you with this benediction. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord shine his face upon you and be gracious unto you. Amen. Have a wonderful Sunday, Muncie.